Okay, so point number one, working late and long hours. So there's absolutely no coincidence that startup environments are busy. And what does that mean? It means that projects take a long time to complete because usually startup environments have limited resources, limited manpower, etc. And that will eat up time inside of the working day. So if you are expecting this sort of 9 to 5 environment, it can be more of a 7 to 7 at some points depending on how busy the environment is at certain times. For example, at my company, summertime is horrific. Winter time slows down a lot and that whole 9 to 5 vibe sets back in, but during summertime is our busiest time by far. So that's when, we're sort of finishing at 6, 7 o'clock. Team meetings don't happen in the morning, they happen at 5:30, in the evenings. So startup environments can be a bit dodgy when it comes to working hours. So if that's something you want to avoid completely and you just want your 35, 40 hours a week, every single week, maybe a more traditional company would be better for you. Point number two is all about the limited resources and increased problem solving aspect that is inside of the day-to-day working experience inside of a startup. Now, with no coincidence that these startups have a limited budgets, limited manpower, limited everything. For example, we act like a 20, 30 person agency, but we only have 6 of us. And what that means is a lot of responsibility falls on the current employee shoulders to make sure tasks are being done on a day-to-day and to make sure goals and metrics are being hit on a weekly basis. And it can be quite stressful at times because you feel like you're doing so much. And moving on to one of the other points straight away that ties into this very nicely, you do change your responsibilities very often. It's very rare you will sit and just do one thing for the entirety of the day. For example, my role as marketing executive, I cover everything from social media management, outbound communications, brand development, client management. The entire lot could be done in a single day for me, which is completely fine from a personal learning and development standpoint because everything is so accelerated. But it can feel like if you don't have good time management skills, it can get on top of you very, very quickly. This mindset of solving problems on your own as well is so key inside of a startup environment because, again, pairing this with working at home like I am doing currently, as you can sort of tell, means that you don't have an eye over your shoulder constantly to check your work and to make sure everything is all good and make sure you're not making any mistakes. If I put communication out there that has a typo or has something wrong with it or doesn't hit the point that we're trying to make, that falls directly back onto me and it is my responsibility and I have to answer for that. And it can be stressful at times because you could be waiting half an hour, 20 minutes, whatever, for a Slack message to get responded to. Whereas if you were in an office environment, you could simply just walk to someone's office with your laptop and just show them, and then bang, 30 seconds, you would get your answer. But working from home inside of a startup environment is very challenging from this idea of managing the C-suite. This is something that is very important inside of this corporate landscape, is how you manage upwards, how you talk to your seniors, how often do you talk to them, what do you talk to them about, what responsibilities can you have on your own shoulders and keep on your own shoulders and not have to ask too often. I feel like a lot of people that work from home are they fall into one of two categories. They either ask their seniors to check their work too often, or they simply don't ask at all. And that's how errors start to happen and cracks in the work start to show. And on the topic of managing upwards, it is a lot more reasonable inside of a startup environment to ask for a raise, to ask for learning and development packages than it is to do so at a bigger organisation because there's less processes you have to go to. In my environment that I work in now, all I have to do is ping an email to the CEO. Whereas in a bigger environment, let's say like a Facebook or a Google or whatever, you'd have to contact your line manager, they would have to contact their manager, and it would be a whole process. It would take quite a while to figure out, where I can go to my boss and just say, hey, listen, I think I would want this for my learning and development, and within probably half an hour I would get either a yes or a no, or they would schedule like a final meeting to discuss why I need it, how it could benefit me in my role, blah blah blah. But overall, from a learning and development perspective, working in a startup is so accelerated and so fantastic because you aren't waiting for things to happen, you aren't waiting for confirmation, for learning and development packages and all the rest of it. Which leads us on to more career growth opportunities, and this is probably the absolute catalyst of why working in a startup is so valuable, of that you will be if you are good in your role, you will be accelerated to a higher role very quickly because bigger companies like to hire from startups. The headhunting space in my industry is rampant, and the talent crisis that we have currently is a very big problem for startups, of where a big company will simply just headhunt all the talented people from these smaller companies, offer them 40% higher wages, but the smaller company can't match that, so the smaller company ends up losing talented people to the bigger companies, and it's such a rampant issue at the minute. But obviously as an employee, we can use this to our advantage and negotiate higher wages, negotiate bigger packages, better job titles, etc. to make sure we are fully getting the most out of our role, because we don't want to be working at a certain level, at a lower level, when we're actually operating at a higher level. Having the confidence to take a step back and be like, hold on a minute, I'm actually doing the work of a head of marketing when I'm only a marketing executive, for example. Inside of this environment, it's a lot easier to take that conversation to the CEO than it would be to a line manager in a big company. Career opportunities and learning and development opportunities are so bountiful inside of this environment. It's why I personally took a job in a startup over a job in a big holding company, because I knew my own personal learning and development would be so greater accelerated than if I was just a bit of a button pusher every single day. One of the coolest and most unique things about the job I currently have inside of the startup environment is that all of my work is public. All the work I do can be seen by everyone else inside of this industry. For example, we have publicist connections to really big news outlets inside of our industry. When I post something on one of those outlets, at the bottom it says written by Martin, or whatever the case may be. So that is a direct piece of work that has been made available to the public, and anyone can see that. And anyone that's looking me up for, say, a higher job role or doing that bit of headhunting will be able to search my name, and those sorts of things will come up and help to boost my own opportunity when moving to a higher role. And I will always advise people to build a personal portfolio and show off your creative work, whatever that creative work might be. And having all these pieces of internal work made public is so amazing, because it frees that work up to put onto my personal portfolio to show it off and then to write a bit more about it, etc. But just from that point of view of being able to create a piece of work and then for everyone to be able to see it, you wouldn't see that inside of a big holding company. You'd only really see that inside of a startup, of where your name is actually attached to the work, and more importantly, you are credited for the work that you do. And the final point to end off this video is you do become good at everything but master of nothing. Because my job role is so broad and I have to take care of so many different aspects, I don't really have the time to niche down and specialise and really learn the in-depth processes for, let's say, social media management or email communications. Like, I'm doing so much on a day-to-day basis for a wide variety of things that learning and development side of things suffers. But then the flip side of that is, obviously, I'm learning so much about so many different things in a short space of time, and moving forward 2 or 3 years, I will have a good view in my own head of what I actually want to pursue and what I enjoy doing, rather than having to bottleneck myself because I've only ever done social media management and I have to do that forever. Like, no, I've done so many different things, and I can leverage my CV, etc., to talk about a specific thing that I want to carry on doing in the future. So I hope this video gave you a broad understanding of what it's like to work inside of this marketing startup environment, what my day-to-day looks like, and what the growth opportunities are like inside of a startup versus a big company. Obviously, this video could have been 30-40 minutes long, and obviously I want to get as much value in a short space of time as possible. So if you did find any value from this video, make sure to subscribe, like the video, comment down below. I'm always open for discussion, and I hope you have an awesome day. Stay safe. I'll see you later.